mid-level gifts. Hi, I'm Bill Stanczykiewicz. This is the first day from the fundraising school, and I'm joined today by Robert Osborne Jr., principal of the Osborne Group. Robert has significant frontline fundraising experience, and the knowledge he has gained is now being shared through his consulting work in the United States and around the world. And Robert, thanks so much for being with us on the Fundraising Schools podcast.
Thanks, Bill. Thanks so much for having me.
I had the absolute delight, Robert, of watching you teach at the International Fundraising Congress in Noordwijk, the Netherlands, a wonderful session that was packed with lots of energy, a lot of folks taking a lot of notes, asking a lot of questions on this topic of mid-level gifts. And so, first of all, for our audience, what is a mid-level gift? What are we talking about here?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I'm going to give two quick definitions. So one, I think it's for most organizations, it's whatever that space is between your smallest gifts and your major gifts. And I think that can vary for different organizations. What I would encourage people, particularly in the United States, to think about is $1,000 and up to your major gift level. So $25,000 or $50,000. And I say that just because I think most organizations, even if you don't have a lot of donors at that level right now, can aspire to having donors at that level.
And when we look at household giving, from Giving USA, millennial households are second, giving at about $1,300 a year. The boomer generation leads the way at nearly twice that. So $1,000 is in that range of what we see households are giving. Does this number also get adjusted by budget size, perhaps? Are we also talking maybe like the middle of the gift range chart?
Yeah, I mean, I think, again, I would still encourage most organizations, and obviously people will have to make their own decisions about this, to think about $1,000 and up. And that's because the way we approach annual giving versus mid-level giving versus major giving is different. And there's different returns on investment, and there's different efficiencies associated with each. And so if you're treating lower level donors like mid-level donors, and by the same example, if you're treating major donors like mid-level donors, there's a real opportunity cost to both of those things. And so I think most organizations, again, you'll have to decide for yourselves, but most organizations can aspire, even if you don't have a lot of $1,000 donors today, to having $1,000 donors and up. And so I would, again, unless you're a teeny tiny organization in rural wherever, I would encourage folks to be thinking about $1,000 and up.
Yeah, Robert, we want to learn from you those distinctions on mid-level donor fundraising compared to annual fundraising and major gift fundraising. But one more question, and that is, you provide consulting around the United States and around the world. You must have seen something where you have said, I need to teach on this. I need to propose a workshop on this. I am just seeing this so often. What are you observing in our sector that you're noticing a gap here, that the fundraising from mid-level donors doesn't seem to be occurring on a frequent basis?
Yeah, first, I love mid-level giving because it's both strategic and tactical. So I think tactically, it's a way for folks to be able to raise a lot of money relatively quickly, relative to their budget size. So it's an area where you can add donors, I think, quickly, and therefore money. And it's also strategic in that it helps you build a pool of future major donors. So that's why I like it. I agree. There's suddenly this real hunger for it, and I'm not totally sure why. I'm not, to be honest. I was gratified by the number of people who attended our session at the IFC. We did the Osborne Group did a webinar recently that was related to this pipeline. I'm doing a webinar in Hungary. It just seems to be a lot of hunger for this, no pun intended, for whatever reason. So I'm glad, because I think it's a really important category of giving. And for whatever reason, people seem to be recognizing that this is an opportunity for them and something they need to get better at.
Well, and I would just say, I think it's a testament to your expertise that, again, with the work that you're doing in the sector, you've noticed this, you put the topic out there, and lo and behold, you've touched a nerve and are addressing a real need. So let's get to those distinctions then. You talked about there's a difference between, initial annual fundraising. We think about major gift fundraising, and in between is mid-level fundraising. What are some of those distinctions of mid-level fundraising?
Yeah, so I think mid-level kind of lives in that space between major gift fundraising and annual fundraising. And what I mean by that is it takes the direct marketing of annual fundraising, where most of your work is going to be through the mail or through digital, and major gift fundraising, where most of the work is one-on-one, right? It's interaction and building relationships, and it kind of combines the two. So it's really largely direct marketing, with sprinkled in with some events that you might do. And I don't mean galas, but I mean small level events, intimate gatherings of whatever kind, whether those are virtual or in person. And then it's a once a year meeting with as many of those donors as you can, for solicitation purposes. Now you can throw in other things in there as well, but that's where the relationship part becomes part of this, as well as the events. And again, the events can just be a room with some, with some food, a little bit of food, a little bit of drink, where you're really talking about the work in whatever way that works for you best. So it's kind of somewhere in between, and what it allows for is efficiency. So it allows you to build personal relationships, but it's not personal relationships at the major gift level where you're meeting with folks, multiple times during the year, and many times while you're cultivating a gift. And that's an important part of this, because to only do it through direct marketing, very often I would say mid-level giving is treated as like a giving club. You're just a person on a list, and you get marketed to, but there's no real interaction. That's ineffective. Just as if you're spending a lot of time with these donors, it's kind of a low return on investment because it's not required.
So how do I determine who's on this list to receive, that initial broad scale marketing and messaging, and then to be invited to these events? Do I invite all of my annual fund donors, or is there a way to identify who is most likely to increase and make that mid-level gift?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. So I think there's a few ways to look at it. One, who's already there? Certainly invite those folks. I'm a big encourager of wealth screening, and using wealth screening, particularly if you're a small organization. I think sometimes small organizations think that this is a luxury, when I would say in a small organization, you need all the advantages you can get, and you want to be spending your time with the people that can make the most difference, and understand who those folks are. So looking at people's capacity within your database through wealth screening, I think is important. And then I think you can do some data mining. You can take a look at your data. You can see who's giving more than average, even if it's, a lower number. That might be someone who's interested. Who, gives on a regular basis or has been giving for a long time. That might be a candidate for mid-level giving. And then just looking at folks who are maybe giving $500, $600, $700 that you can solicit and move up into that level. So I think there's lots of different ways of thinking about it. And then you can acquire donors. This is also an area where I think your volunteers can really become, a big part of this work. It's an area where you don't have to necessarily be affluent to know folks who can give at this level. These are mostly probably professional people in some way that have professional jobs, but it also could be somebody who is working class, or that just is dedicated to your work. It is possible for them to give at this level. So. Like a lot of things in fundraising, it's as much art as science, but taking a look at those factors, I think will give you a robust pool of donors to work with.
So there are opportunities for new donors to come in at that mid-level, whatever we determine that dollar amount is. And as Robert suggests, we're talking at least $1,000. Could be more for your nonprofit based on your budget, but that's a good baseline to start from. Somebody could come in new at that level. But Robert's also talking about the people who are existing donors, and meaning an essential is good data in our donor database that we then can analyze, do wealth screening, do some examination, and determine who might be ready to be invited to upgrade into that mid-level. And, Robert, it almost sounds like if we don't do that, we're giving our donors permission to stay at their initial level. Is that a way to understand this? Instead of letting them experience an even greater joy of giving, to let them know of a greater opportunity to give at a higher level?
I think that's exactly right, Bill. And I think, I often teach this interchangeably with pipeline and thinking about how do you integrate all of your fundraising programs and all of your fundraising channels so that you are deliberately and strategically giving people the opportunity to move up to greater giving levels. And I think that's an important way to think about this work. We do a lot of assessments, and when I assess major gift programs, I'm most interested in looking at your mid-level giving program because that's going to tell me much more than what your major gift program looks like about the potential of your major gift program. I think most organizations are quite good at keeping happy the folks at the top of the pyramid. What we're not always good at is really stewarding and caring for the folks that are a little bit lower on the pyramid. And so, yeah, if we're doing good work, right, we want to give folks the opportunity to give to that work, and we certainly don't want to take that opportunity away because we didn't ask or we haven't integrated our fundraising programs.
And this is important in and of itself. If we invite our donors to become mid-level donors when they have the capacity to do so, and we steward them and cultivate them the right way, Robert, that's important in and of itself. Is this also a stair step to potential major gifts down the line from these folks if they have the capacity to do so?
Yeah, I think this is your future major donor pool with the important caveat of what are you doing with those donors when they're in your mid-level giving pool? So are these folks well stewarded? And so my advice for most organizations is one, pay attention to stewardship. Almost none of us are doing enough of it. I will be happy after 30 years when I run across the organization that is doing enough stewardship in my humble opinion. But I think for major donors, most of them will make a gift at the mid-level first, right, before they make a major gift, and then based on their experiences there, maybe they'll make a major gift, maybe they won't. And so really thinking about their experience there. Do I feel well stewarded at the mid-level? And by well stewarded, I don't mean feeling grateful. I mean, that's part of it. And it really means, do I have an understanding of the impact of my giving? Do I understand that at a deep level? You promised me that something would be different tomorrow because I gave money today. Did that happen, and how knowledgeable about that am I? And if I feel good about that and I understand the impact well, then I'm much more likely to make that gift up and move my giving up into the major gift level. But if I'm not, I'm probably going to either stay where I am or maybe move down. So that's an important part of running a mid-level giving program. A good one is to really, really focus on the stewardship.
And just to amplify Robert's excellent point there, again, mid-level donations are important in and of themselves. And if that is someone's capacity and that's where they are, that's fantastic. And yet it could be in the research, and this is the amplification, the research supports what Robert is teaching us here today, that a lot of times that major gift donor will make a smaller gift to just kind of check us out, a little bit of undercover boss. And how are they being stewarded as a result before they trust us with a larger dollar amount? Robert, it seems to me, too, that if I'm looking at my existing donors then, and for opportunities of inviting them to elevate to a larger number, I mean, even if somebody goes from $500 to $750 or $500 to $1,000, and I multiply that decision 20 times, 100 times, 500 times, suddenly my annual fund has grown considerably. It seems to be there's a wonderful opportunity here to increase our return on our financial investment on fundraising by just working with our current donors towards mid-level fundraising.
Absolutely, Bill. Again, it's one of the things I like best about this category of giving because it can make a really substantial difference in your bottom line in a fairly short period of time. 12 months, 24 months, just like you said, people upgrading into the mid-level. If that happens at scale, or if you add 50 new mid-level donors, which I think for many organizations is not an unrealistic thing to do, if you're focused on it and have really been strategic about it. And I think for some organizations it can be even more than that. So to me, it's you're really building that future major gift pool that you can use if you need it down the road, but you're also raising money for today in a meaningful way. And so that's when I say that it's both strategic and tactical, and that's what I mean by that. It has that real ROI right away. And so that's why, I encourage all organizations to give mid-level giving some real serious thought and not treat it just like it's a list of people.
Robert, we need your wisdom on this. If I could ask you to expand on that further, that fundraisers might be saying, I'm under guidance from my CEO, from our board, to really only spend time with the highest capacity donors, to really go for those major gifts, to look at the highest income and medium income folks who can make those larger gifts. And, you mentioned what you see lacking in stewardship. We see the same thing at the fundraising school, and people say, I don't have time because I'm being told, go on to the next donor, go on to the next donor. And even when we look at the data that show a declining percentage of households that are giving, the households that tend to be dropping out are the moderate and lower income households or working class households. And we just wonder, are they even being asked? Are they even being invited? And you look at the Giving Commission and our friends at the Fundraising Effectiveness Project and our school's data, that would seem to be the case. What advice do you have then for the fundraiser who is hearing from the people they report to, yeah, that sounds great that somebody would go from $500 to $1,000, but what we really need you to do is spend time with those major gift donors. What tools, what messages can you give to fundraisers as they try to lead up?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. I mean, so one, this is always tricky, right? And so I'll just kind of throw some things out there. One, I think it's, exactly what I talked about before, that this is your future major gift pool. This is how you develop those major gifts and the return on investment that's associated with major giving. And so if an organization is truly interested in the top of the pyramid, they need to be interested in mid-level giving as well. I would also say that, the argument that I just made before, that it can have a real impact on the bottom line today. It can really make a difference today. And that's why I like it also, because you can kind of prove it, right? Like your boss is skeptical, but maybe gives you a little leeway to build out mid-level giving. You could see a difference in 12 months, right? You could see, something that you could point to and say, okay, imagine if we scaled this. Imagine if we did more of this. It can make a real difference. And then, I think taking a look at your retention rates and looking at metrics, and I think you can almost always make a real argument for stewardship, for retaining this all of your donors from a monetary standpoint. But you can absolutely make a monetary argument about why spending time at the mid-level will make a difference. And so this is where we get into tables of gifts and modeling and all of that good stuff. But the nice thing I think about mid-level giving is that it does lend itself well to making that monetary case, that numbers case. And if you can make a numbers case, I encourage people to do so, because it's hard to argue with numbers. It's easy to argue with Bill and Bob who say go do this, do mid-level giving. It's much harder to argue with the numbers. And so if you can kind of combine those two, I think you can have an effective case.
And the philosophical discussion as well, that in terms of generosity, all donors are important. All gift sizes are important, not just those folks, Robert, who can make the larger gifts.
Absolutely.
Robert Osborne Jr. He's the principal of the Osborne Group, and you see why he's in demand in the United States and around the world on a wide range of fundraising topics, including mid-level donors and mid-level fundraising. Robert, thank you so much for sharing your expertise and your wisdom with us here on the First Day podcast with the Fundraising School.
Thanks so much for having me, Bill. It's one of my favorite topics.
And this content is consistent with what we teach at the Fundraising School, Principles and Techniques of Fundraising, the annual fund course. This information is sifted throughout 25 public courses that lead to 5 different certificates. We're in person in 10 U.S. cities, online in the U.S. and anywhere around the world. We also can customize our training just for your nonprofit, your association, your region, yes, in the United States and internationally. We also have our quarterly webinars and, of course, these weekly podcasts. All of our information is gathered in our textbook, Achieving Excellence in Fundraising, book now out in its 5th edition. Where can you find this? Online at go.iu. fundraising.edu/TFRS for the fundraising school. In addition to being grateful to our guest, Robert Osborne Jr., I'm saying thanks to our producers today, the Emmy Award winner, Mike Anthony, as well as Jennifer Boffman, CFRM. I'm Bill Stanczykiewicz. Now you are now more fully informed on this first day from the fundraising school.